What is up, everybody? Welcome to Stat Diggers for UFC 310. We have Alexander Pantoja going against Kai Asakura. And yeah, we are back after a week off to break down a 14-fight pay-per-view card, and a card that I'm really looking forward to. Really looking forward to being back right in it here. Weezy, how was your week off? Hopefully it was better than mine. The Ohio State Buckeyes, and I know I'm wearing Penn State gear, but there's a reason. The Ohio State Buckeyes lost to Michigan as minus 2,000 favorites. They were minus 2,000 on the money line. The spread was like minus 19.5 points, and Ohio State loses to Michigan. And it was like that. That's equivalent to like Bo Nickel losing to like Jamie Pickett. I couldn't believe my eyes. It's the biggest upset I've ever witnessed, and it was just heart wrenching. So I put my Penn State gear on, and I'm now a Penn State fan officially. Weezy, how was your week off?
It was nice, man. It was nice to be have Thanksgiving with family and just, get some time away from the fights a little bit and relax a little bit and kind of catch up on a couple of things. And it was nice. It was nice to have a week off. And now we got 2 more weeks left in the year. And then we got our 3-week break between mid-January and mid-December. So, yeah, we got to finish the year strong here. We got 2 14-fight cards to finish off the year. And both of these cards are stacked pretty much from top to bottom. So we got a lot of old heads on this card, though. We got a lot of really wide lines on this card. So it's going to be an interesting one to talk about from a betting perspective. But I feel good after a week off, and I feel really good knowing there's only 2 weeks left in the year. So I'm feeling positive, want to finish strong, and go into the break, hopefully with a few more flapjacks on the stack.
Yep, there's definitely a couple spots sticking out to me. I can't wait to break it all down. Before we do, so if you guys could please like the video, subscribe to the channel. We go live every Sunday for some Stat Diggers. What is up, everybody in the chat? We got Elijah first one in here. Let's go. Pay-per-view fight week, baby. Yeah, we have 2 cards to end the year. 2 very good cards. Looking forward to it. We got K Deep Montana. What is up? What is up? Good to see you in here. TH saying Asakura week. Yep, making his UFC debut in a title fight. Can't wait to break down that main event. We got Pours Wolf. Can't wait to listen to what these gentlemen have to say. Some of the best in the biz. Let's go, boys. Appreciate you, Pours Wolf. We got Kiwi in the building. Good to see you, Kiwi, saying sure all. Who else we got up in here? We got UFC picks and balances. Wouldn't that be crazy if they started early? Oh, us? That'd be very crazy. That would be crazy. What do you guys think of Battle? Think he's a lock? I don't think anything's a lock. But we'll talk about that Battle fight. We got House of Pain, Michael in the building. Oh, yeah, it's time. It's time after a long week of withdrawing. Bring it on, boys. Let's get them flapjacks. Let's get it. Let's get it. We got Force in the building. I'm here to chat UFC stats and chew bubble gum, and I'm all out of bubble gum. There you go. Love it. Cod Lies, what is up? What is up? Chiwiwis from Francisco. Good to see you on here after a week off, but we have 14 fights to break down. I think next week we have 14 fights as well, maybe even 15, just a ton of fights. But we're going to be starting with the first fight of the card. Did they have the Kennedy fight as the first one?
That's what I'm seeing on UFC stats, or at least where it was earlier. Let me look and see if that's still the case. Yep, that's it.
All right, let's talk some Kennedy and Nzechukwu going against Brzeski. We got Kennedy and Nzechukwu, 32 years old, 6'5" with an 83-inch reach. Brzeski, 32 years old, 6'4" with a 78-inch reach. We got the same age there between the two. It's going to be Kennedy with a 1-inch height advantage and a 5-inch reach advantage. Kennedy is 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Knockout win against Ian Kudalaba. Submission win against Devin Clark. A knockout loss to Dustin Jacoby. Decision loss to OSP. And then a knockout win in the first round against poor Chris Barnett. As far as Lucas Brzeski, he is 2-3 in his last 5 fights. Decision loss to Martin Budai. Decision loss to Carl Williams. Knockout loss to Waldo Cortez Acosta, a decision win against Walter Walker, and then a knockout loss to Mick Parkin. So yeah, we were kind of talking before the show. We have a lot of massive favorites on this card, and we're going to kick the card off with a massive favorite. We have Kennedy and Nzechukwu minus 600. He did make his debut at heavyweight in his last fight against Chris Barnett. And yeah, I mean, I think he was a massive favorite there. And Elijah kind of said it. Like, I think Chris Barnett, I know we love the guy, but I think he's kind of ass. And I think I can say the same thing about Brzeski. I think he's kind of ass. I mean, Mick Parkin, I never thought he'd ever get a UFC finish, but he ended up just starching Brzeski in the first round. That was shocking. And then also we saw Waldo Cortez Acosta, who couldn't finish guys like Chase Sherman, guys like Andre Arlovsky. We saw Waldo Cortez Acosta knock this guy out in the first round as well. I'm starting to really worry about the durability of Brzeski. And then on top of that, I'm kind of worried about everything else. So this should be a pretty easy win for Kennedy, but he's minus 600. Christian saying the Kennedy 2-3. That's always kind of the look with Kennedy, but it might be in round 1, man. Like Mick Parkin's getting finishes against this guy. So that would be kind of the concern with that. But yeah, Kennedy should school this guy and finish him at some point in the fight. Weezy, what are your thoughts on this first fight of the card?
Yeah, I like Kennedy here, but we were talking about it last time against Chris Barnett, where you just can't lay minus 600 on this guy. He is a guy who will absolutely pull stunts. He'll get knocked out when somebody hits him in the forearm. One fight after absorbing 180 significant strikes and winning. He will go out there and get knocked out in the first round by Dustin Jacoby. He will go out there and lose to Ovince St. Preux as a minus 700 favorite when Ovince was 41 years old and hadn't won since the Obama administration. And Brzeski is a guy who's a volume striker, but he just doesn't have any power, and you don't have to worry about him getting takedowns or dominating you on the mat. So how does he win? Because, Kennedy's a guy who's going to throw just as much volume as Brzeski does, but Kennedy's a southpaw with a 5-inch reach advantage who's 1 inch taller than Brzeski. And frankly, the much better athlete, the much more explosive guy, the much more powerful guy, and also the guy who's probably more likely to win minutes in the grappling exchanges as well. So, and like you mentioned, if you're getting knocked out by Waldo Cortez Acosta and Mick Parkin in the heavyweight division, that's a huge red flag at this level. It really is, because this guy isn't very good to begin with. He's not dangerous anywhere. It's not like it's one takedown from Brzeski and he's going to sub you. And he certainly doesn't have one-punch knockout power on the feet. I mean, this guy's got 5 heavyweight fights and 51 minutes in the cage, and he's landed 0 knockdowns. And, he's facing Badai and Williams and Walter Walker and, Waldo Cortez Acosta and Mick Parkin. These are not exactly the biggest killers in the division. So, I think Nzechukwu's actually a pretty good prospect up here at heavyweight now at 32 years old, because he's a guy who can wrestle a little bit, because he's a guy who's got some power, because he's a guy who, if he's getting the right coaching and the right game planning, should be able to find a lot of wins in this division, because it's a talent poor division. It's an athleticism poor division. And Kennedy's got a lot of natural gifts that you can't coach. And now he's also going to be using those gifts against less gifted fighters like Lucas Brzeski. And I think it should be Kennedy, probably inside the distance. But yeah, at the current line, there's not much we can do about it.
Yep, that is true. That is true. My bad. I missed you, Muhammad. I missed you there. Good to see you. Let's see. Kennedy's chin at heavyweight has yet to be tested. I mean, Barnett just gave him nothing. I think he attempted a spinning fat kick, didn't he? Just one of them.
Well, yeah, he hurt his knee on the spinning fat kick. Barnett did. Yeah, and that's where he wound up knocking himself out. But when you're a big fat dynamo like Barnett, you got a lot of torque. That explosive athleticism. Sometimes tendons tear.
Yeah.
When you're that explosive, sometimes that shit happens. So yeah, Kennedy got a win over a big fat dynamo in Barnett, and now he's going to get one over a former steroid user in Brzeski, who looks like the after picture, or the before picture of like a steroid regimen, because the picture of him on Tapology does not match what we see currently, when we look at this man. So yeah,
if this guy shows up, do you change your mind at all?
Yeah, that guy ain't showing up, man.
You don't
that
think?
That guy ain't showing up, dude.
If he does, though. Yeah.
He was, and he got caught just after that when he was on Dana White's Contender Series. He pissed hot for an estrogen blocker, which is a dead giveaway that you had just finished up a cycle.
On paper, this is the most attractive duo on YouTube. Oh, I thought you were talking about Brzeski and Kennedy. I was like, what? But he's talking about us. Well, appreciate that, dog.
Appreciate you, man. I thought he was talking about Brzeski and Nzechukwu, the before picture of Brzeski.
Oh, yeah, he's very handsome there. Yes.
Yeah, and then the Kennedy and Nzechukwu with the haircut like Kid from Kid and Play.
Yes.
Yeah, the eraser head.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. Steroids happened. All right. Let's see. Let me get that off. So let's see where the total's at. I'm guessing they're going to put it at 1.5, and they do. The over/under set at 1.5. The over 1.5 minus 150. The under 1.5 plus 120. Typically for a Kennedy fight, I would think more 2-3, but Brzeski's chin really scares the crap out of me, so I don't think I'll be touching the total.
Let me just look at my model here real quick for that. For the under at plus 120, it's pretty fairly priced. 5 of 12 fights for Nzechukwu have finished under 1.5, 2 of 5 for Brzeski. So about 41% total on a 17-fight sample size. And the plus 120 is a 45% cost of the line. So, yeah, they priced it like right where the statistics say you should price it. So the over at 1.5 at minus 150, fairly priced. The under 1.5 at plus 120, fairly priced.
Yep. And so we got the old gloves back, which means maybe Kennedy does finish this bum in the first round. Maybe he does.
That could be. Yeah, I mean, like, dude, and Brzeski's durability, like you said, Brady, is something that I'm looking to fade as well, but it looks like the bookies are onto it. I kind of figured we would get a better line than plus 120 for this, but it is what it is.
Yep. All right, move on to probably the biggest mismatch on the card, at least according to the odds. We have Chase Hooper going against Clay Guida. We have Chase Hooper, 25 years old, 6'1" with a 74-inch reach. Clay Guida, 42 years old, almost about 43. He's 5'7" with a 70-inch reach. Hooper is going to be a million years younger. We have Hooper with a 6-inch height advantage and a 4-inch reach advantage. Clay Guida is 2-3 in his last 5 fights. Submission win against Leonardo Santos. A submission loss to Claudio Poyas. A decision win against Scott Holtzman. Decision loss against Rafa Garcia. Decision loss against Joaquim Silva. As far as Chase Hooper, 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Knockout win against Felipe Caloric. Knockout loss to Steve Garcia. Decision win against Nick Fiore. Submission win against Jordan Levitt. And then a submission win against Slava Borshev. So, yeah, like I said, Hooper is a minus 1,000 favorite. I never thought I'd see the day, but here we are. And, yeah, this does feel like a very good match for not only Chase Hooper to go out there and win, but probably submit Clay Guida, who's been submitted a million times in his career. Clay Guida, at this point, 43, he's got to be one of the oldest fighters on the entire roster. So Chase Hooper kind of on his way up, making a ton of improvements, looked incredible in the Slava fight, even looked good in the striking in the Slava fight. And I just feel like at some point this fight's going to hit the mat. And if this fight hits the mat at all, the fight's probably over shortly after. So I like the minus 1,000 favorite here, and I think he's probably going to give Clay Guida his 70th submission loss. Weezy, what are your thoughts on this fight?
Yeah, I mean, it's a minus 1,000, so it's kind of made Hooper unbettable at this price. And, and it is a little bit ridiculous, but he's coming off some phenomenal performances over Levitt and Borshev, a win over Fiore. He got knocked out by Steve Garcia, but prior to the Garcia fight, Hooper had a phenomenal performance against Colares. And we're seeing this kid, now that he's up at 155, he doesn't look like a string bean anymore. It looks like he's filling out a little bit. And at only 25 years old, it looks like he's in the right weight class. He's already got 18 professional fights at the age of 25, and he's 6-3 in the UFC. Got a win over slippery Pete Barrett, Brady. So this kid, he's already showing some career trajectory that's on the upwards trajectory here. So I think that Hooper's ground and pound is phenomenal. His submission game is extremely aggressive. And, he's the kind of guy who can be submission over position, because if he winds up on the bottom, he just winds up getting back on top anyway, because he's so aggressive, because he's constantly making his opponent defend, whether they're on the bottom, whether they're on the top, making them scramble. His conditioning, just like Clay Guida, has always been known for having amazing conditioning. Hooper's conditioning has looked great. So he's 17 and a half years younger, and then you look at, how Clay Guida wins fights. And, if you're going to bet on Clay Guida, you're probably thinking, I'd like Clay to wrestle, I don't think he wants to wrestle this kid Hooper. And Hooper is let's see, 8, 9, 10, 11. He's 6 inches taller. He's got a 4-inch reach advantage. He's a southpaw, 17 and a half years younger. So Clay Guida is turning 43 years old, Brady, the day after the fight.
Oh,
43 years old. And he's had, dude, 60 professional fights for Clay Guida, 601 minutes in the professional cage. This guy has spent 10 hours of his life fighting professional killers. It's amazing. So Clay's a legend of the sport, and a credit to the sport of wrestling and mixed martial arts, one of the pioneers. But I just think it's really odd matchmaking to match him up against a 25-year-old prospect. You know, like the last fight against Joaquim Silva made a lot more sense. You know, the 2 fights ago against Holtzman for him made a lot more sense. A 25-year-old prospect in Hooper who's on a 3-fight winning streak, that doesn't make as much sense to me. I don't know what they're thinking with this fight. I think that they could send Clay Guida out in a much better matchup for the fans than this.
yeah. Apparently these guys had a grappling match and Hooper subbed him, which I forgot about that, but yeah, that happened. Calf slicer.
Yeah. I'm not surprised. You know, Chase is so aggressive on the mat, and Clay Guida has been submitted 11 times as a professional. 11 losses by submission for Clay. So, yeah, I mean, like, just on paper, this is such a bad matchup for Clay.
Yeah. I remember that too. Tim hitting the Poyas by knee bar 50-1. Yeah, that was crazy.
Him posting that ticket. That was crazy.
Pete Barrett, pound for. You think he's the slipperiest fighter to ever step foot in the octagon?
I cannot think of anybody slipperier than Pete Barrett. I mean, I'd probably have to like really dig into the database to come up with anything. But off the top of my head, certainly not. No way you're getting any slipperier than Pete Barrett. So yeah, when is he coming back? Why is he not in the UFC right now?
Well, he went to sign the contract and the pen slipped out of his hand. So
that could have easily happened.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, like the thing about contracts is if you get grease all over them, a lot of times lawyers are going to tell you, I can't enforce that, you know, because I can't read it. The contract is too slippery.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't think we'll see him back until he maybe put some gloves on and try to sign it. I don't know. But yeah, Chase Hooper minus 1,000, Clay Guida plus 700. The over under again is set at 1.5. The over 1.5 is minus 145. The under 1.5 is plus 115. Another total I don't have a strong read on because it literally can happen in any round. So probably gonna be staying away from this one unless they mess up the Chase sub prop. But I'm assuming the submission prop is going to be minus money.
Yeah, I'm sure it will at minus 1,000 for Hooper. Yeah, you're going to probably have to really pay up. The over 1.5 is a trifecta bet on my over-under betting template in a 29 fight sample size. Minus 145 over 1.5 is value according to the past performances of both fighters.
Yep. And it could go over. I don't know. If this fight hits the mat, it's probably a wrap. So, let's move on to a competitive fight. Finally, we got Michael Chiesa going against Max Griffin. We got Chiesa, 36 years old, 6'1" with a 75-inch reach. Max Griffin, 39 years old, 5'11" with a 76-inch reach. Chiesa is going to be 3 years younger. He's going to have a 2-inch height advantage and a 1-inch reach disadvantage. Chiesa is 2-3 in his last 5 fights. Decision win against Neil Magny. A submission loss to Vicente Luque. Decision loss to Sean Brady. Submission loss to Kevin Holland. And a submission win against Tony Ferguson. As far as Max Griffin, 3-2 in his last 5 fights. A decision win against Carlos Condit. A decision loss to Neil Magny. Decision win against Tim Means. A decision loss to Michael Morales. And then a decision win against Jeremiah Wells. Kind of a tricky fight here, I think. I think it's going to all come down to, of course, whether or not Chiesa is going to be able to get the grappling going against Max Griffin. Weezy, what are your thoughts on this fight here?
Yeah, I think I like Griffin here. Just he seems to be, even though he's the older fighter, I think a lot of people are going to assume when they look at this fight that it's going to be Griffin who's the younger guy. No, it's Griffin who's 39 years old. Chiesa who's going to be turning 37. And he's fighting on his birthday, by the way.
Who is?
Michael Chiesa.
So he's going to win.
Yeah, born December 7th, 1987. So this will be his 37th birthday. And fighting on your birthday is a very, very, very good thing. Very plus EV. But I like Griffin to win the fight because Griffin's a very efficient grappler. He's very hard to take down and hold down. He's got a positive grappling efficiency according to my ratings, and he's spending about 68% of his UFC octagon time, which is over 200 minutes, at distance striking range, while for Chiesa, it's only 36%. So this fight is going to be about, obviously, Chiesa's a guy who needs to get his grappling game going to win minutes and moments because he is not a good minute winner on the feet. And Max Griffin is a guy who we know has pretty good defensive wrestling, pretty good anti-grappling, and a guy who's got a little bit of power on the feet. He's got an 8-to-1 knockdown ratio at the UFC level. And he's got a positive 0.2 distance striking differential. He's just going to be the crisper boxer who hits harder. And he's got the big cage to move around. But he is the older guy, but I think he's the guy that's been just slightly a little more active over the last 3-4 years. But he's been away from the cage for 9 months, has Max Griffin. But yeah, I think Max is going to win this fight. You know, Michael Chiesa hasn't. His last 2 wins are against, the rotting corpse of Tony Ferguson, and he won against Neil Magny as well. And he's lost to Luque, he lost to Brady, he lost to Kevin Holland. It's been a minute since this dude has beaten somebody that anybody should really be like, all right, that's a really good win. While Griffin is, going tit for tat with a stud like Jeremiah Wells, won a round off of Michael Morales, beating Tim Means, beating Carlos Condit. Lost a very close split decision to Neil Magny, a fight that I thought he won. Because I know that I thought he won because I bet Magny, and I was very disappointed with my bet. So yeah, I think Max is fighting at a little bit better level right now. I think I can trust his striking a lot more, but it's going to be about Chiesa getting takedowns and getting the dominant positions. Because if that dude gets on your back, it's probably the round and maybe even the fight. So it's going to be about Max Griffin's takedown defense, but I think it'll be pretty good here. And I think he's going to win this fight.
Yeah, I do lean towards him, but I don't know. I don't have a strong feeling on it. Like if Chiesa does get him down a couple times, this could end up being a really close fight. Griffin opened up -110, currently -139. Chiesa opened up -110, currently +119. The over/under set at 2.5. The over 2.5 is -185. The under 2.5 is +155, which makes a lot of sense. I don't think there's a finish here.
My model does like the under. It feels that it's underpriced at +155 here. 11 of 16 Michael Chiesa fights that have been scheduled for 3 rounds have finished under 2.5 rounds. So he's a guy that can be submitted. He's not known for having the best chin or being the best striker. And obviously he's a guy that can get a submission as well. So when he gets your back, he's very good at finishing with the rear naked choke. So my model likes it. Am I counting on Chiesa or Griffin to get a finish in this fight? Probably not. I got to look a little bit further deep into it. I know Huevos is asking me what my picks were earlier in the card. Definitely no surprises. I am not picking Brzeski, and I am not picking Guida.
Yeah. Yeah, Chiesa gets submitted all the time, maybe, but I don't know if Max Griffin submitted anybody before, so.
I don't think he has. Let me look real quick here.
Yeah, he hasn't.
2 submission wins as a professional, but 0 submission wins in 16 fights at the UFC level.
Yeah, so, yeah, we'll see. I think it's going to end up being a close fight I'm probably going to stay away from. All right, moving on to another competitive fight. We got Cody Durden going against Joshua Van. We got Durden, 33 years old, 5'7" with a 67-inch reach. Joshua Van, 23 years old, 5'5" with a 65-inch reach. We got Van 10 years younger. That's going to be Durden with a 2-inch height advantage and a 2-inch reach advantage. We got Durden 3-2 in his last 5 fights. A decision win against Charles Johnson. Decision win against Jake Hadley. Submission loss to Tagir Ulanbekov. Knockout loss to Bruno Silva. And then a submission win against Matt Schnell. As far as Joshua Van, he's 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Decision win against Zalga Sumagulov. Decision win against Kevin Borjas. A knockout win against Felipe Bunes. A knockout loss to Charles Johnson. And then a decision win against Edgar Chairez. Kind of like the last fight in a sense that, Cody Durden's going to be looking to get the fight down to the mat. And I've been waiting to finally have somebody test this ground game of Joshua Van. Felipe Bunis, in theory, should have probably went for takedowns. He didn't. Zalgas probably should have. He didn't. We saw that even Edgar Chairez didn't really go for takedowns at all, but I kind of have a feeling that Cody Durden's going to go for takedowns here. So I think Joshua Van's takedown defense in ground game is going to be tested in this one. Weezy, what are your thoughts on this fight here?
Yeah, I've got a bet on Cody Durden here. I think it kind of should be the other way around. And don't get me wrong, I'm a big fan of both of these guys. I love Joshua Van's style. He's one of these guys who's got a pretty good chin outside of what we saw in the Johnson fight. He moves forward. He throws a ton of volume. He's got good boxing. He rips to the body, and he can break you late with the amount of forward pressure, volume, and body work that he does. And Cody Durden's striking, I think, is looking a lot better lately. His performance against Bruno Silva was really good. And then he got caught with an uppercut after Bruno got back up after being down for a while in the second round there. But up until that point, Cody had won the first round there. I thought he did. And then the second round, he almost knocked him out at the beginning of the second round. He got a takedown and some control time as well. And then he got caught with an uppercut against a guy that's got a ton of power. Joshua Van has a pretty nice uppercut. That's something that I noticed on tape from him. So that's something that I think he could do. And I like unders in this fight as well, Brady, because I feel like Van is a guy who can break people late. And Cody Durden has been finished in 5 of his 6 professional losses. And I also like that Cody Durden's got a great front choke game. And he's flashing some power on the feet as well right now. So I think that Cody is not going to be out of his depth here on the feet. And I feel like if he can get takedowns in the second half of this fight, he can win a decision here. I feel like he could potentially get a submission on the mat. And I think he cracks on the feet. And frankly, Josh Van is not that far removed from his last knockout loss to Charles Johnson. And we always talked about Joshua Van having a good chin. But you don't know that somebody has a good chin until you see them eat a lot of clean shots. And that's something that I'm worried about, is that Joshua Van is eating a lot of clean shots on the feet. And I don't care what anybody says. If you're getting knocked out by Charles Johnson, that's not a good thing in the UFC. I'm very surprised that he got knocked out by Johnson. And he came back really quick after that knockout. And you got a guy in Durden here who is hitting really hard in the Silva fight. And I've been also waiting to fade Van against grapplers because he's fairly new to the sport. His career is only 3 years long as a professional. So somebody like Cody Durden, who's got a good Brazilian jiu-jitsu game, who's got great back takes, who's a 2-time state champion wrestler in high school, I think that he's got a really good all-around game that he can win minutes, he can win moments. So I love getting him at plus money here.
Yeah, let's see where this line has went. So Van opened up minus 350. Wow. Did you see that? Minus 350. He's currently at minus 150. And Cody Durden opened up plus 275. But that was only there for 9 minutes. So somebody got Durden at plus 275. It was there for 9 minutes. Went to plus 150. He's now at plus 130. The over-under is set at 2.5 rounds. The over 2.5 minus 145. The under 2.5 is plus 115. And I'm with you. I don't mind the under at all.
Yeah, me neither. I'm definitely looking at unders here. A fight doesn't go to decision. I think they're fairly priced. The under 2.5 at plus 115 is fairly priced right now. And I think it can get even a little bit more expensive from here.
Yep, I don't mind that. I don't mind that. Durden has good wrestling. Yeah, he does. Absolutely
Very
does.
good wrestling.
I wonder if Brady picked Bruno to finish Durden. I did, and I was like hating my bet for the first round and a half. It looked like Durden was about to break him, and then Bruno landed a nice shot and finished him there. Van got good takedown defense. I mean, we don't really know. Like, nobody's really tried to take him down, though.
No, but he's shown good takedown defense on the attempts that he's had against. He has stuffed a decent amount. He stuffed a couple against Bunis. He stuffed a couple against Zhumagulov. Stuffed like one against Borjas, I think. So he's actually got 83% takedown defense, and he's seeing 4.2 per 15 minutes, and he's seen like 16 or 17 takedowns attempts in the UFC, and he's stuffed like 14 of them.
Well, there you go. I can't really remember anybody really trying to take him down consistently, but yeah, that's a lot. Doesn't go under, doesn't go as better than the under just because of Van's pace and Durden's
Agreed.
cardio. Yep, I would agree.
Agreed.
Maybe it can be at plus money there. So yeah, should be an interesting fight. All right, we'll keep moving on. We have a fight that we can kind of just go through really quickly because we were supposed to watch this one for what was it? UFC
309.
was it 309? Yeah,
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
and Eric Anders. Somebody was saying he relapsed. I mean, this guy got clean, and somebody was saying he relapsed on something. I don't know, but apparently Anders had to pull out, and we're getting this fight scheduled for 310. But yeah, we got Weidman. He's 40 years old, 6'2" with a 78-inch reach. Eric Anders, 37 years old, 6'1" with a 75-inch reach. Anders 3 years younger. Weidman with a 1-inch height advantage and a 3-inch reach advantage. Weidman is 2-3 in his last 5 fights. Knockout loss to Dominic Reyes. Decision win against Omari Akhmedov. Knockout loss to Uriah Hall, decision loss to Brad Tavares, and a decision win against Bruno Silva. As far as Eric Anders, he is 2-3 in his last 5 fights. Submission loss to Andre Muniz, decision loss to Jung Young Park, knockout win against Kyle Dawkins, decision loss to Marc-Andre Barrio, and then a decision win against Jamie Pickett. So yeah, this line really crashed down. Last time we talked about this fight, Eric Anders was like minus 180, and then kind of throughout that fight week, money came in on Chris Weidman, and the fight ended up closing at about a pick'em, and that's exactly what we're getting here. We're getting Eric Anders minus 110, Chris Weidman minus 110. I'm picking Eric Anders with not a ton of confidence, but I'm going to pick him here to win. I'm sure I'll be betting on the fight, though. Weezy, what are your thoughts on this fight?
Yeah, those are my same thoughts. I like Anders to win this fight. When I look at Weidman's line history, he was only minus 160 in the fight that he broke his leg against Uriah Hall. And if you remember, even back then, like people thought Weidman was done back then. People thought Uriah Hall was done. People thought, that Uriah Hall was going to knock out Weidman because he had been knocked out in like 4 straight losses. So then he breaks his leg. He comes back against Tavares, and everybody's like, dude, this is the worst idea ever. And, they're like, not only does Tavares love to kick low, but he's got really good takedown defense. So this fight is going to stay on the feet. And a guy in Weidman who's been knocked out as many times as he has and already has a compromised lower leg, goes out there and gets his leg kicked off and basically gets 7 shades of shit beaten out of him. And then he goes out there as a big underdog against Bruno Silva and frankly looks like complete dog shit. But Bruno Silva looked worse. And it's not surprising. It looks like Bruno Silva doesn't even want to fight anymore. And now he's minus 110 against Eric Anders. So just purely on the recent trends of where these lines are, it doesn't make any sense that Chris Weidman shouldn't be a much bigger underdog, at least to me. And people are breaking down this fight like this is like Chris Weidman isn't washed and over 40 years old. I mean, the win against Silva is completely meaningless. And the last win before that was against Omari Akhmedov, who was having a stroke on the stool between rounds 2 and 3, who was already done. So I don't know. I mean, like Anders is still a good athlete, and he did not relapse. I mean, I don't know who said that. He got food poisoning, evidently. And these guys, like, food poisoning is like I don't even remember. I don't think I've ever had food poisoning in my life, Brady. I'm 50 years old. I've never had food poisoning. Professional athletes who eat clean and they get food poisoning all the time, and it's after a bad weight cut. It happens all the time. Your body is so compromised. Anything that could go wrong can go wrong. So now they're going to fight this one at a catch weight, and I think Anders wins, but maybe Weidman's able to get a couple of takedowns and kind of win around with his wrestling like he did in the Silva fight and keep it close on the feet. But I think Anders is bigger than him, stronger than him. And I think he's going to be able to kind of wear on him in the clinch and potentially even get takedowns of his own. So Chris Weidman, historically only has 50% takedown defense. So I think Anders is a guy who can wear on you with that gigantic, body that he has. And I see him winning this fight, and I could see him easily getting a knockout here too. So yeah, I think Anders inside the distance is the way that I would play this, but I don't I don't want to bet this fight, dude. A 37-year-old against a 40-year-old.
Yeah. And another thing we got to mention is we're no longer in New York, which is going to not help Weidman.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. It's that I mean, it's better for Anders. He's going to be a little bit closer to where he normally would train, like back in Arizona here, and Weidman's not fighting at home in New York.
Oh, so yeah, -110. I'm curious to see where this line does go. If Eric Anders does become plus money, I'll probably have to play him, right? I mean, I just it's
You
disgusting.
don't have to play anything in this fight. I think that's something maybe we should be talking to each other during the week.
Yeah.
Like, hey, you didn't put anything on this fight, right? Because I think maybe the smartest move, especially with it being -110, is just to stay away.
Yeah, and this over is -250 to the over 2.5. The under is +210.
Yeah, I don't mind an under. I don't mind an under. It's a Chris Weidman fight.
He's been knocked out a lot.
Yeah, he has.
A lot of times.
He's been knocked out 6 times, Brady.
Mm.
It's a lot of knockout losses for a middleweight. These are not flyweights. These are guys who hit, they can punch holes through walls.
Yeah, Anders KO, I forget what it exactly was on fight
Yeah.
week last time, but it was like +350. It wasn't a
350-ish.
Wasn't a bad line.
350-ish. Yeah. It's not bad at all.
Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see. I was not too excited when I saw this fight was rebooked and put on this card, but it is what it is. All right. Let's move on to this next fight. We have Bryan Battle going against Randy Brown. We got Bryan Battle, 30 years old, 6'1" with a 77-inch reach. Randy Brown, 34 years old, 6'3" with a 78-inch reach. Battle 4 years younger. It's going to be Randy Brown with a 2-inch height advantage and a 1-inch reach advantage. Bryan Battle is 3-1-1 no contest in his last 5 fights. Had a decision loss to Renat Fakhretdinov, a knockout win against Gabe Green, a submission win against AJ Fletcher, no contest against Angelusa, and then a knockout win against Kevin Doucette. As far as Randy Brown, he's 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Decision win against Francisco Trinaldo, a submission loss to Jack Della Maddalena, decision win against Wellington Turman, knockout win against Muslim Salikov, and then a decision win against Elizus Leski dos Santos. So it looks like Bryan Battle's going to be taking a bit of a step up in competition here. He's been looking really good lately. He looked probably career best in that Kevin Doucette fight. And I keep saying it every Bryan Battle fight. Every time he steps in the cage, it's like this guy levels up. So I think it's a well-deserved step up in competition here against Randy Brown. I think we got a good fight on hands. Weezy, what are your thoughts on this one here?
Yeah, and Bryan Battle's a finisher. This guy's finished 5 of his 6 UFC wins, and Randy Brown has been finished in 4 of his 5 UFC losses. So I think that a lot of the finish upside in this fight is definitely on the Bryan Battle side. So I think he's the rightful favorite. But there's also some things that I don't like, on the Battle side. Number one is the level of competition, combined records of 17-18 for Bryan Battle's 8 opponents. And for Randy Brown, it's 130 wins and 90 losses. Randy Brown's 13-5 in the UFC. And the only guy who didn't finish him that beat him was Bilal Muhammad, who's known for being more of a minute winner than a finisher. So I think that Bryan Battle, while, -230 on the money line is not tickling my fancy at all, because Randy Brown has got precise striking, and he's going to have a 1-inch reach advantage. He's going to be a couple inches taller, and he's fought the much better brand of competition. And neither one of these guys offensively grapples all that much. So I see this fight taking place mostly on the feet, even though both of these guys tend to spend about half their time on the feet. But while this is at range, I like the length that Brown brings, and I think that he's got just as much power as Bryan Battle does. So I think it's actually going to play out pretty close. I don't think Battle's the best minute winner on the feet, Brady, because his defense is not good. That distance striking defense at sub 51% would be something that I would be very worried about if I was laying -230 on Bryan Battle's money line. But I think Bryan, what I like is I think there's a lot more finishing upside on the Bryan Battle side. And I also think that there could potentially be some grappling upside. We saw Elizu Zaleski dos Santos get 4 takedowns against Randy Brown and have him in a rear naked choke for about a minute and a half, 2 minutes. Brown is explosive when he gets on top. He's got good ground and pound, and he's tall, so he's hard to take down and hold down. He's got 70% takedown defense. But when you do get him down, you can keep him there for a while and win some minutes. So I'm thinking Bryan Battle, and I think that he might be able to find a finish at some point in this fight, maybe in the first or second round here. But I think if it goes over 1.5, it probably does go the full 15. It's one of those weird ones where I expect to finish, but only really early in the fight.
Yeah, it's one of those where I think Battle wins. It's the line just a little bit too wide for my liking. Minus 234 now, and Brown is plus 199. The over-under set at 1.5. The over 1.5 is minus 200. The under 1.5 is plus 160. And we got our guy Avery Marino back in the building after a week off, 99.99, saying, "Welcome back, fellas. Let's have a strong week." Another Stat Diggers parlay, of course. Last Stat Diggers parlay did not go well. It was the nastiest, most terrible parlay I think we ever come up with, Weezy. It was Muslim Salikov and Tabitha Ricci.
Yeah. And Salikov looked great, but we were both like the only one that we wanted to lay juice on, you and I, was Salikov. So then I was like, let's go with the plus money on Ricci. And yeah, I didn't watch that fight. I don't plan to watch it anytime soon. I had 1 unit on Ricci by decision. That one went tits up pretty quick. I heard she looked terrible.
Yeah, if we would have did the show later in the week, we probably would have went with like Carlos Hernandez. Even that one was greasy though.
Yeah, that was very greasy. Yeah, Carlos got the job done for me, cashed a big ticket for me, but yeah, that was very close.
Yep. So shout out to Avery. Yeah, we'll get one this week. I think there's a ton more options to choose from this week. A lot of spots I'm liking in terms of parlay pieces, especially. And yeah, that was one of the best quotes of all time. Y'all didn't think I was going to lose a fist fight to a French dude. Battle is pretty dang good on the mic.
That was, I don't think he was doing good up until he used that line. And then that was like, oh, well, he just brought it all home there. That's pretty brilliant, but yeah, this is a good deserved step up in competition for Bryan Battle here. This is going to be a really fun fight.
Yep, I'm looking forward to seeing how he performs in this step up, but I just don't think I can lay minus 240 on the dude here. I think it's a little wide for my liking. All right, but at the same time, I'm not stepping in front of this. I'm not stepping in his way. He looks very good, and I think he's only improving. So I'm going to pick him to win, but no bet for me. All right, moving on.
Pass on the money line for me.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to this next fight. We got Movsar Evloev going against Aljamain Sterling. We got Evloev, 30 years old, 5'7" with a 72-inch reach. Sterling, 35 years old, 5'7" with a 71-inch reach. Sterling's going to be 5 years older, same height, and it's going to be Evloev with a 1-inch reach advantage. Evloev, 5-0 in his last 5 fights. Nick Lentz, decision win. Hakeem Dawodu, decision win. Dan Ige, decision win. Diego Lopez, decision win. Arnold Allen, decision win. Some really, really good wins mixed in there. Aljamain Sterling, he has 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Petr Yan, split decision win, close fight. TJ Dillashaw was injured, got the knockout win there. Close fight, close win against Henry Cejudo. Lost to Sean O'Malley and then made his debut at featherweight and looked really good against Calvin Kattar. Completely shut him out. Really dominant win there. But now he's taken a step up here against Movsar Evloev. And yeah, this is a weird one for me. I don't know, man. Like, I've bet on Evloev in a lot of fights, and like all these bets have been hitting, but there's a lot of sketchy moments really in every single Evloev fight. Yeah. There's always like one sketchy moment. In the Lopez fight, there was like 3 sketchy moments. Against Nick Lentz, there was a sketchy moment. Against Mike Grundy, there was a really sketchy moment. Arnold Allen, same thing. So I think I like Evloev here, but I don't know. I have a weird feeling about this one. Like, what happens if Sterling is able to take down Evloev? And if Sterling takes you down, like, you don't typically get back up, especially if he gets to your back. So I'm kind of struggling with this one, especially laying minus 240 in Evloev. I don't think I can do it. But Weezy, do you have a strong take on this fight here?
Well, no, not really. But my strong take is don't lay juice on this Evloev guy. Dude, he was minus 190 against Allen. That fight was awfully close. And if it weren't for that candy-ass, dumbass rule, if your fingertips on the ground, you're down. No, otherwise Arnold Allen is knocking him out. Diego Lopez, he's in 3 deep submissions from a guy who took the fight on less than a week notice. Dan Ige, he loses a round in that fight. Hakeem Dawodu, Dawodu is somebody that has got really good striking, but not much of a ground game. Split decision against Nick Lentz. And the thing is, he's minus 700 against Nick Lentz. Minus 700. And it's a split decision. Dude, he loses a round to Mike Grundy. At minus 185. He's minus 225 against Dawodu. He looked minus 225. That way, he covered that price tag. But, against Ige, he's minus 410. He looks okay. Against Lopez, he's minus 1,000. He barely won that fight. Against Arnold Allen, he's minus 190. Got really lucky about his fingertips being down on a couple of those knees. So, and now, he's facing a former champion in Aljamain Sterling who can put him in just as bad of submissions as Lopez did. And he can strike with guys like, Ige or Lopez, he's got that level of striking, very high level of competition. The thing about Aljamain is, I just don't know where he is at this point. God, did he look terrible against Sean O'Malley. That was one of the worst performances I've ever seen. He didn't wrestle at all in round number 1. And it's like, dude, what are you doing? Are you even trying to win this fight? It looked like he wanted to be done with bantamweight and he couldn't be done with it if he won the fight. So it almost looked to me like he tried to lose it. And he fought a game plan that you would absolutely fight if you were trying to lose to Sean O'Malley. Now, I'm not accusing him of wanting to get slept violently in the fashion that he did, but it was just a dumbass game plan. So I don't know if I want to put the money on Sterling at the big plus money here, but to me, this line, laying that much on Movsar Evloev, a guy who fights with really small margins against worse fighters than Aljo Sterling, seems like a really bad idea to me.
It does, dude. Like I said, anytime I bet on this guy, it's like, what are you doing, Movsar? How are you being competitive with Nick Lentz? How are you being competitive with Mike Grundy? Like, what's going on, dude?
Dude, he was in such a deep dark choke against Mike Grundy.
Yes.
Dude, if that's Aljo, it's over. The fight's over if Aljo puts him into a choke that deep. I mean, Aljo finishes that choke. Aljo takes your back. He stays there. And Aljo's difficult to deal with on the feet because he's got a very awkward style. It's difficult to prepare for. So, yeah, man, I could see getting to an Aljamain Sterling money line bet or maybe a plus 3.5 points handicap bet at plus money.
What about a sneaky, a little cheeky Aljamain Sterling by sub, because this dude Evloev has been put into almost 10 submission attempts in his entire career. I think it's like.
Let's look. I got the number right in front of me here.
I'm gonna guess 8. I'm gonna guess 8.
Because Aljo is averaging 0.73 submission attempts per 15 minutes, so that's high. And oh wow, yeah. Oh well, no wait, defensive. Where's the defense? Yeah, 8 total submission attempts is how many Evloev has been in, and he's been taken down 8 times as well. It's not like Evloev is like this guy that you can't take down. So maybe Aljo might be able to get takedowns here. And if he does, if he gets to this dude's back, yeah, Aljo by sub is going to be a fat number with his money line being at plus 220.
Yeah, the more we're kind of talking through it, the more I just don't understand this line. Like the striking, it's not like one-way traffic for Evloev.
No, it's not, dude. He's not. I mean, like he's wins.
Okay.
He wins decisively enough that you're like, he's going to keep climbing the ladder and he's going to be a difficult matchup for anybody who fights him because of the way that he can win minutes with his wrestling. And if you look at the stats there on the screen, you see it, 39% control time for, less than 5% control time allowed. He's winning almost 90% of the control time positions in his fights, and he's spending almost 50% of his fights there. So he's a very dominant minute winner in the grappling exchanges. And he's a minute winner in the striking exchanges as well. He lands more than he absorbs.
Yeah, I don't think Aldridge is the best striker, but what he does throw is a ton of volume. I like that. But yeah, this could end up being a lot closer than the line does indicate. Because right now, Evloev, he opened up minus 220. He's currently minus 240, and Sterling opened up plus 185. He's currently plus 205. And we got to remember that this is minus 350 to go over. So we are going to go to the corrupt judges. And I don't know. This has kind of split written all over it, I think.
Oh, it certainly could. It certainly could. I think that Evloev is definitely the better wrestler. So I think he's definitely the guy more likely to complete takedowns or stuff them. But at the same time, a guy like Sterling's so tricky with his submission game and back takes and scrambles. He could wind up in some advantageous positions here. And if he does, Movsar fights on such thin margins that all Sterling needs to land is a couple of big strikes or get one back take, and he's live to win the fight.
Yep, it's very interesting. Evloev by decision is a free square. I'm just going to be. Yeah, I think it will be. There's always a sketchy moment with Evloev, always, and no matter who he's fighting, he could be fighting Malcolm Gordon, and there'd be a sketchy moment with Malcolm Gordon. Might put him in a triangle or something.
Gordon's got him in a knee bar. That was deep, like it's just going to happen. It, dude. So
yeah, this guy would struggle with Malcolm Gordon and still win. I mean, this guy, I don't know, but he's so good. But yeah, there are at least one sketchy moment in every single fight. All right. So let's move on to this next fight here. It is Vicente Luque going against Themba Gorimbo. We got Luque, 33 years old, 5'11", with a 76-inch reach. Gorimbo, 33 years old, 6 foot with a 76.5-inch reach. Same age there. It's going to be Gorimbo with a 1-inch height advantage and half-inch reach advantage. Vicente Luque, 2-3 in his last 5 fights. Submission win against Michael Chiesa. The decision loss against Bilal Muhammad. Knockout loss to Jeff Neal. Decision win against Rafael dos Anjos, and then a knockout loss to Joaquin Buckley. As far as Themba, 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Submission loss to AJ Fletcher. Decision win against Takashi Sato. Knockout win against Pete Rodriguez. Decision win against Ramiz Brahimaj, and then a decision win against Nico Price. So yeah, I was talking to you about this fight earlier last week, and I was like, man, if this was the Vicente Luque prior to getting completely destroyed against Jeff Neal, I mean, this would be just a max bet. I think stylistically, this is the perfect matchup for Vicente Luque, because on the feet, it's not really close, and then Gorimbo's going to obviously go for takedowns. If he does that, Vicente Luque is a BJJ black belt, has that Dars. We saw that happen in the Chiesa fight. Chiesa went for a takedown. Luque snatched up his neck. Gorimbo's been finished before via submission. So yeah, I think if this was prior to the Jeff Neal fight, it would be Luque all day, every day, not even close, max bet. But the fact of the matter is, I'm worried about him. He actually looked decent against RDA. Like that wasn't a bad performance. He actually took down RDA like 8 times across 25 minutes. But what kind of rubbed me the wrong way was we saw Vicente Luque, a guy that's known for his toughness, a guy that's known for no quit. He quit against Joaquin Buckley. Buckley got on top, landed some big shots, and Luque looked for the door. And that was kind of very concerning. So, yeah, I'm worried about Vicente Luque. If we got even half the version of prime Vicente Luque, I think it's a great matchup for him. But my worry is that Vicente Luque is more than on his way out. Weezy, what are your thoughts on this fight? Kind of a weird one here.
Yeah, it's a very weird one for me because obviously Luque is the guy who's fought the much better brand of competition. You look at the combined records of the guys that Gorimbo has fought in the UFC, 15-21. The combined records of the guys that Luque has fought, 172-105. So, Luque has fought the much better guys. But, the thing about Luque is he was never this great fighter. What he was extremely durable. And because he was extremely durable and extremely game and had a huge heart and had solid striking and solid grappling, he was in awesome fights. But he lost his durability. Jeff Neal stole it from him. He had bleeding on the brain, a very, very serious injury for a fighter to undergo. And ever since coming back from that injury, he's looked like a completely different fighter. This was a guy who would happily trust his durability all the time. Just go into the pocket with you and swing and swing and swing. And he'd absorb whatever you brought out and he'd try to knock you out. And Luque finished 19 of his 22 pro wins, Brady. 19 of 22. So a Vicente Luque who doesn't go into wars with durability and heart. Well, what happens then? Well, he's 3-6 to the decision in his career. So Luque is not a guy who can just kind of like at 33 years of age be like, okay, now I'm going to be a minute winner. Now I'm going to cage push and I'm going to look for takedowns and I'm going to chain wrestle and I'm going to look to finish with submissions and I'm not going to strike. I mean, it worked against a very, very old and undersized Rafael dos Anjos. And frankly, that's a better win than Themba Gorimbo would be, in my opinion.
Oh, so much better. 10 times better.
You know,
yeah.
Obviously, dude. I mean, like a guy like, Dos Anjos has never been submitted, so obviously Luque going out there and beating him, was that a 5-round fight too?
Yeah, 5-round.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, he's still, like, I don't think he can like switch his identity from a warmonger, like just swing dicks type of guy to a minute winning philosophy. But he did do it against Dos Anjos, but like, and he could do it against Gorimbo because Gorimbo's not particularly skilled. He's just not. The wins over Pete Rodriguez, who cares? Takashi Sato is terrible. Ramiz Brahimaj is terrible. Nico Price is getting up there. Nico Price is kind of shop worn. Like we mentioned. I mean, it's not just the fights; it's all the kids at home. That'll take a lot out of you as well. I mean, Brady, you could tell it. I'm sure we could go 3 hours today with stories about how having a kid changed you. So. Nico Price had like 8.
Oh.
So yeah, I pray for him every night, So yeah, man, this is a very, very weird one because like if I were to back Luque at plus money, I think that's probably the right play to make. But I wouldn't be surprised if he came out here, got hit once and just shelled up and, not hit once, but hit clean once. Or like just like Joaquin Buckley finishing you with ground and pound. Joaquin Buckley, I mean, if he knocks you out on the feet, I get it. Yeah, I mean, that guy, he hits hard, dude. He just slept Wonderboy Thompson. If Joaquin Buckley's knocking you out with ground and pound,
thank you.
That's terrifying, dude. That is absolutely terrifying. So no, thank you. I think that Gorimbo probably should win this fight just because there's a different career trajectory. And I don't think the UFC would have given him this fight if they didn't think that he could win it.
Yeah, and he is coming here on short notice as well. It was supposed to be Nick Diaz versus Luque. I guess it all comes down to whether or not Luque is completely washed. I guess we're going to find out Saturday. But this line movement, quite frankly, is shocking to me. Not saying I don't like Luque in this matchup, because I do. But money's pouring in on Vicente Luque. Gorimbo opened up minus 175. He went as low as minus 250, and he's currently minus 150. Vicente Luque opened up plus 150, went to plus 210, and it's been nothing but Luque love at plus 130 now. So guess money's pouring on Luque, which, like I said, I did not expect that after Luque literally quit in his last fight, but here we are.
Yeah, it's a weird, like I said, dude, it's a weird fight that I might just be perfectly happy keeping my money away from, but I think there's really solid arguments to be made about both fighters.
Yeah, I think there's a million to be made about Luque, but there's one good argument for Themba, and that's Luque's just probably shouldn't be in there at this point.
Yep. He looks like a completely different fighter.
Yep, and that's the scary thing. So it's a tricky fight. The over-under is interesting. The over 2.5 is minus 210. The under 2.5 is plus 170. It looks like Themba's not going to finish anybody ever at this point, besides Pete Rodriguez. So if it's a Themba win, I'm kind of thinking maybe like a Themba decision, unless Luque does quit. Maybe like a Luque finish only, but even that at this point, it's like, because remember we were thinking about maybe taking the Vicente Luque finish only against Jeff Neal.
Yes.
Back in the day.
I remember that because the guy is just, he was, we used to say he was unfinishable.
Yeah.
And he was eating big shots in the first round. He was eating massive shots in the second round. And he somehow made it to the third round. And then you could tell his brain just shut off at some point. It was like, I'm leaving.
It was
The
bad.
body can stay here standing up, but the brain was like, I am leaving. And that was one situation where Luque was just too tough for his own good. Any other fighter would have been out long before Luque went out in that fight, and they probably would have been able to resurrect their career a lot quicker because they wouldn't have been as badly injured.
Yeah, it was bad. It was career changing, which is weird because Luque won his next fight right after that, and it surprised a lot of people, including me. I thought Luque was done after that, but he ended up winning 5 rounds against RDA.
Yeah, he did. He
I don't
did.
know.
He won minutes too, which was weird because up until that point he was 2-6 in decisions.
It's tricky. It's a tricky fight. The brain bleed. The brain at the blood. Yeah, not good. Luque sub, if it's crazy number, will be worth a shot. But I think he's done. We got Dan saying, has smashed the like button, gentlemen. I agree with Dan. Appreciate you, Dan. Themba is going to smell blood. I don't know if this guy's ever going to smell blood. I mean, a lot of his performances are just terrible. Like I had Themba sub against Sato. Want to put my fist through a wall. I ended up not betting the Nico Price fight, but kind of liked violence there. I thought he could finish a wash Nico Price, not even close. I don't think he's finishing anybody at this point, but maybe he does. We'll see. And agree, yeah, like the stream, I agree. Luque should go to the slap league. I don't think he should do that either. I mean, that involves getting hit in the face hard. I don't think he should do that. Maybe some grappling for Luque. All right. Let's move on to the next fight. It is interesting one. We got Dominic Reyes going against Anthony Smith. Dominic Reyes, 34 years old, 6'4" with a 77-inch reach. Anthony Smith, 36 years old, 6'4" with a 76-inch reach. Dominic Reyes, 2 years younger, same height. It's going to be Reyes with a 1-inch reach advantage. Dominic Reyes, 1-4 in his last 5 fights. Decision loss to John Jones, knockout loss to Blachowicz, Prochazka, and Ryan Spann, and then a knockout win against Dustin Jacoby. As far as Anthony Smith, he has 2-3 in his last 5 fights. Decision loss against Johnny Walker. Decision win against Ryan Spann. Knockout loss to Khalil Roundtree. Submission win against Vitor Petrino. And then a decision loss to Roman Dolidze. So this is an interesting fight. Looks like we have Dominic Reyes as a massive -330 favorite, which is a little bit of a concern because just prior to that Jacoby fight, I think a lot of us were kind of writing off Dominic Reyes. Like, this guy's done. This guy hasn't won a fight in a million years. He's been knocked out in back-to-back fights. And then he goes out there and pulls off the upset against Dustin Jacoby. Great first round knockout win. Now he's taking on Anthony Smith, who I don't know. Anthony Smith, and I've been saying this literally the last 4 years. It's like I think Anthony Smith is kind of on his way out. In some fights, he looks just absolutely awful. Like, he looked so bad against Johnny Walker. I was there live for that fight. He looked awful in that fight. Looked awful against Roundtree. Looked awful against Dolidze. But then he's able to go out there and pull off the upset against Ryan Spann. He's able to go out there and pull off a massive upset against Vitor Petrino. So he's able to keep somehow, some way finding ways to win some of these fights. I still don't completely trust the chin of Dominic Reyes. How could you? But I don't know. And if Anthony Smith can't knock out Johnny Walker, I'm not sure he's able to knock out Reyes here. So I like Reyes here. I just -330. I don't know. I don't know about that. I think I do like some kind of violence here, though. But yeah, Dominic Reyes has to be the pick. Anthony Smith has looked rough at this stage of his career. Weezy, what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, Anthony Smith just has 2 less fights than Clay Guida does. Clay's got 60 and 600 minutes of cage time, and Smitty has got 58 and 431 minutes of cage time. Average fight time for these guys, 10.7 minutes and 7.8 minutes. So, yeah, I think that's an interesting look, to lean towards an under here, because Reyes does have a ton of power. Both of these guys are what you would call chinny at this point. And Smitty is always live to snatch up a submission. The guy's always had a tricky submission game. 15 career wins by submission and 20 by knockout for Smith. So Smith never been the best minute winner. He's 2-5 to the decision in the UFC, while Reyes is 3-1. So I actually think, like, if I were to handicap this fight, just wiki capping it without doing any tape, I would probably pick Dominic Reyes by decision, simply because that Smitty is a guy who can take a little bit of a beating, and he's kind of low volume on the feet. Doesn't really do a whole lot. And you don't really have to worry about Smitty going out there and trying to take people down because he never offensively wrestles. And, Anthony Smith, 6.6% control time 4. Dominic Reyes, 5% control time 4. And both of these guys average a half takedown per 15 minutes or less. So you got to believe that this fight's going to take place on the feet. And while it's there, that Dominic Reyes is the better kickboxer. He's the guy that's more accurate. He's the guy that is going to be have a little bit more power, and he's just got better kicks, I think. So I think Reyes wins the minutes. He's more likely to win the moments, in my opinion, as well. And I don't see a lot of grappling upside here for Smith. So maybe Reyes finds a KO. Maybe he finds a decision. But I remember I bet Reyes to win by decision against Dustin Jacoby last time out. That was plus 700, and I think if there is a finish here, it'll probably be early, as these guys, 39% of their combined 23 fights have finished in round 1.
Oh, wow.
So I think that's probably, where you're going to see the highest probability of a finish. As a matter of fact, 5 of Dominic Reyes' 7 fights that were scheduled for 3 rounds have finished inside the distance, and all 5 of them were in round 1. So Reyes is a front-loaded guy. If he's going to get that win or loss, it's probably going to be early in the fight, and then if it goes past the first round, is when he's going to kind of start to take a little something off of his punches and try to outpoint you. So, yeah, man, I don't know. I don't really have an opinion one way or another here on the time props because I could see it going either way. But, I think Reyes probably wins this fight, but at minus 330, man, I can't.
Yep, another inflated line. This is the world we live in, the Juice Boy era. That's why we need to get you in office.
I don't know. Maybe the Trump transition team know that my X account is open for DMs. Let me know what I can do in here to make gambling great again in this country.
Yep, we need to. I mean, we should be laying minus 330 on Dominic Reyes. Like, let's put it down to like minus 200, right?
Yeah, I mean, shouldn't that be the better line here? Yeah. And it seems like anybody that should be minus 200 now is just automatically minus 400. It's just the way that it goes. So you got to be patient, and you got to pick the right underdogs because they're going to give you opportunities. The underdogs still do cash, but it's just hard to find value on favorites. That's the hard part right now.
Yeah, like should Chase Hooper be minus 1,000 against anybody? I don't know.
I mean, like the Clay Guida is a legend.
Yeah.
Minus 1,000. That's crazy.
And should Kennedy ever be a minus 600 favorite with the stunts? He's pulled so many stunts. I don't know.
Dude, he was minus 700 against Kennedy.
Or OSP.
Blew it. Or against Ovens, he blew it, and then he was minus 700, and he's going to be minus 700 again. It's just like, insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result.
It is, but I do think Reyes should win this fight. But it's always kind of hard to completely count out a guy like Anthony Smith. Like, I thought there was no chance he'd beat Vitor Petrino, but he did. So
he sure did.
He's a tricky fighter. He seems to always win when you least expect him to. So I'd kind of tread lightly in that aspect. All right, let's move on to the next fight. We have an absolute banger, Weezy. I mean, this fight is probably my favorite fight on the entire card, and that's because it's a Nate Landwehr fight, and he's taking on another fun fighter, Duho Choi. We got Landwehr. He's 36 years old, 5'9", with a 72-inch reach. Duho Choi, 33 years old, 5'10", with a 70-inch reach. Duho Choi, 3 years younger, 1-inch height advantage and a 2-inch reach disadvantage. Nate Landwehr, 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Submission win against Ludwig Klein. Decision win against David Onama. Submission win against Austin Lingo. Decision loss to Dan Ige. And then a knockout win against Jamal Embers. As far as Duho Choi, he is 1-3-1, draw in his last 5 fights. Decision loss against Cub Swanson, knockout loss to Jeremy Stevens, knockout loss to Charles Jourdain, a draw against Kyle Nelson, and then a knockout win against Bill Algeo. This is one where I'm really struggling to make a pick on, but I think it's going to be one of those fights where they just come forward, stand right in the middle of the octagon. they pull out their dicks and they measure them right there and they see who has the bigger cock. So I think this is going to be, what do you call it? A ding dong Donnybrook?
Yeah.
I think it's going to be one of those.
This probably is going to be your Uncle Wheezy's ding dong Donnybrook of the week here, as these guys are just bangers. Choi 12-2 to the KO. Landwehr 9-2 to the KO. We got, like you said, they will just go out there and swing. And Landwehr is a guy who can kind of recover and come back after you clip him early, And Duho Choi is a guy that's got a ton of power, just flat out. That's what he does. That's what the scary part of his game is the power that he brings. So I think that this is going to be a really, really fun fight. If we quickly kind of wiki cap some stuff here, Landwehr's got a little bit more UFC experience with 15 more minutes in the cage, but they have the same amount of fights. They've finished a combined 7 of 8 wins at the UFC level, which is very important. 7 of 8, or 7 of 9, I'm sorry, wins have been finishes for these guys. And at the UFC level, they've been finished in 4 of 6 losses. So, I think violence is something that's probably people are going to be looking at here. They got the over-under set at 1.5, which makes perfect sense. And I think fight doesn't go to decision here. Could be a potential parlay piece this week, because of the way that these guys fight, and because we've seen Nate Landwehr break dudes late. When he broke Ludovic Klein, that was incredible. Beat David Onama. This is a guy that, as the fight goes on, he's not going to quit, and he's got some sneaky grappling upside to his game that we don't get from Duo Choi. There's no grappling upside in Duo Choi's game, but there is in Landwehr's game. So I think it's going to be about who has better defense on the feet, really. And neither one of them has particularly great defense. As you can see on the page there, Landwehr's been knocked down 4 times in the UFC. Duo Choi's been knocked down 3 times in this UFC. These guys have been knocked out 2 times apiece at the UFC level. So, yeah, I think somebody's going to get served here, man. I think somebody's going to get knocked out probably in the first round or 2, and I can't wait for this fight. I think that this fight should be Landwehr as the favorite, simply because I think that there's a little bit more grappling upside, and when you look at the strength of schedule numbers, they definitely favor Nate Landwehr. So I think Nate Landwehr here at, what is the line right now?
-146.
That makes sense to me. I would say anything inside of -150 is where he should be. 60% implied to win at most, because I think that there's a lot of variance here. Both of these guys have got a ton of power, and they're both willing to plant their feet and swing.
Yep. I definitely don't like a money line here, but I do like some type of violence. Maybe like I don't know if I like the 1.5, but like the alternate 2.5, the fight doesn't go, something like that. You know what fight I want to see that run back? I want to see Nate Landwehr versus Herbert Burns 2. I got to see the rematch, because can you believe, looking back, I can't believe that Herbert Burns knocked out Nate Landwehr. Like, just saying it out loud makes no sense. I know it was a knee and all, but it makes no sense to me.
He caught him with a knee in round 1 when he was still fresh, and Herbert Burns is a dangerous dude when he's still fresh. Yeah. After that, he's hilarious. Unintentionally one of the funniest fighters to watch when he gets tired. He's given us some, it's him and Na Liang are just the best. If you're not laughing when you see Na Liang exhausted, or any of these guys that mismanage their cardio the way that they do, it's just fun to watch, man. It's Herbert Burns in the Algeo fights.
Hilarious. So funny. And he also got knocked up by Julian Rose in the first round. So like Choi is live to knock out Landwehr early, but I think as this fight does go on, Landwehr gets better and better. He can get hurt and then keep on going. Like in the Onama fight, like Onama almost knocked him out. It was very close. Like the ref could have maybe even stopped the fight, but you got to kind of kill Landwehr to get him out of there. So We'll see. But yeah, I like some type of violence here. We got Landwehr minus 146, Choi plus 126, and these over-under set at 1.5. I'm going to wait and see what the 2.5 is. I would not be laying minus 170 on the over 1.5, though, because I think these guys are going to swing dicks from the jump.
Yeah, under 1.5 might be one of those bets that even if it doesn't hit, you're going to be like, that was a great bet. You know, those guys were on skates 3 different times. It just feels like it's going to be that kind of a fight.
Yep, that's a good point. Landwehr's never been KO'd to punches. Ige knocked him down twice. We saw him get knocked down in the Onama fight, but it was a knee from both Burns and Rosa. Yeah, both knees. That's true.
And I mean, like, knees have just got to be awful to eat.
Yeah,
imagine, you know, a knee to the chin. Like, I wouldn't wake up for like a week.
And yeah, slippery Pete Bear is slipperier than a wet hot dog. And those are pretty slippery. I don't know if you ever had a wet hot dog, but pretty slippery. All right, so I think that was the main card opener. Let me check what they got here. So that was the main card opener, yeah. So next they have, and this kind of shocked me when I saw this was on the main card pay-per-view. They put Crone Gracie on the pay-per-view here, which was kind of shocking. And we'll talk about why that's shocking. We got Crone Gracie going against Bryce Mitchell. Gracie, 36 years old, 5'9" with a 70-inch reach. Bryce Mitchell, 30 years old, 5'10" with a 70-inch reach. Bryce Mitchell, 6 years younger, 1-inch height advantage. Got the same reach there. Mitchell is 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Decision win against Andre Fili. Decision win against Edson Barbosa. Submission loss to Taporia. Decision win against Dan Ige. And then a knockout loss to Josh Emmett. As far as Gracie, 3-2 in his last 5 fights. He made his debut against Alex Caceres way back in the day. Won that fight by first-round submission. Lost the decision to Cub Swanson. And lost a decision to Charles Jourdain. So we've talked about some fighters who I think are on their way out. Like we talked about Clay Guida. We talked about Vicente Luque. I feel like Crone Gracie is more on his way out than both those fighters. I mean, that last performance of Charles Jourdain, I think that was probably the worst performance I think I've ever seen in my entire life. Right up there with William Knight against Marcin Prachnio. Crone Gracie literally showed up and just did nothing. He pulled guard like 20 times. Easy 30-27 win for Charles Jourdain. It was honestly a disgusting sight. So for them to bring him back, I really thought he would never fight again in the UFC. But they brought him back and they put him on the main card. I just don't get it. This guy hasn't won a fight in how many, like 4 or 5 years? It's been in a very long time. So, yeah, Bryce Mitchell, I'm assuming he's a massive favorite. Yeah, he's minus 700. This fight makes just zero sense to me whatsoever. This should be Bryce Mitchell and Bryce Mitchell all day. Weezy, what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, Bryce Mitchell all day. Crone Gracie is the homeless Gracie brother.
Yeah.
And yeah, he just doesn't, dude, you know what's hilarious about this guy? He's not even really a fighter. I mean, when your mixed martial arts career is 10 years long and you've showed up to fight 7 times in 10 years, this guy has shown up for work. Think about that. Mm-hmm. What is he, a politician? I mean, come on, man. You know, like this it's terrible. Bryce Mitchell can get on top of this guy if he wants to get takedowns and just win. He can win the minutes on the feet. It's however he wants. The line's where it should be. Not going to bet on this fight.
Yep. Agreed. All right. So yeah, Bryce Mitchell minus 700, Gracie plus 500. The over under set at 2.5. The over 2.5 is minus 255. The under 2.5 is plus 205. I think he can actually finish this guy. I think Gracie's just showing up for a paycheck. That's what he did in the Jourdain fight. I wouldn't be shocked if Mitchell got on top, got into mount, and just got him out of there at some point. Because to me, it just looked like he had zero interest in wanting to fight. And I don't see what's different now. Just showing up for a paycheck.
Yeah, the problem is that Bryce Mitchell hasn't finished any of his wins. He's got 1 finished win out of 7. So I don't even know who that was. It must have been.
It was the Twister against Matt Sales.
Oh yeah, Matt Sales. Yeah, really great grappler. Yeah, I mean, yeah, and you're not twistering Crone Gracie.
That'd be hilarious. That'd be hilarious.
It would be hilarious if he got him like in a straight arm bar, you know, like some like day 1 grappling technique win. But yeah, this should be Bryce. You know, this is a stupid fight.
Agreed, and especially for it to be on the main card. Like, come on.
Yeah, agreed. Ugh.
All right. Speaking of stupid fight, I mean, I'm not a big fan of this fight. I think it's going to be boring, but I mean, we'll see. We got Cyril Gane going against Alexander Volkov. We got Gane, 34 years old, 6'4" with an 81-inch reach. Volkov, 36 years old, 6'7" with an 80-inch reach. Gane, 2 years younger. Volkov with a 3-inch height advantage and a 1-inch reach disadvantage. Gane is 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Knockout win against Derek Lewis. Decision loss to Francis Ngannou. Knockout win against Taito Ivasa, submission loss to John Jones, and then a knockout win against a vampire. As far as Alexander Volkov, he is 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Submission loss to Tom Aspinall. Knockout win against Jairzinho Rozenstruik, Alexander Romanov, and then a submission win against Taito Ivasa, and a decision win against Sergey Pavlovich. So, yeah, I mean, we saw these guys fought before. It was a 5-round fight. Went back and watched that fight, and it just looked like Gane was just a little bit too fast for Volkov, a little bit higher volume. The fight was like competitive, but you could clearly tell that it was Gane just doing the better work, landing the harder shots, doing a little bit more. So I think Gane's going to win this fight. I think he's going to win it by decision. I don't think he's finishing Volkov. I just really can't get to the minus 340. I don't see in what world he's looking minus 340 here, but I'll pick him to win. What I will be looking at is maybe like a plus 3.5 for Volkov here, since he is a massive underdog. I think he might be able to win one round just because Gane, he's not going to really run through Volkov here, I don't think. So, yeah, the Gane by decision, I think, is a pretty easy pick here, but minus 340, I don't love it at all. Weezy, what are your thoughts on this fight?
You know what, the thing that I think Volkov has going for him this time around is that this is only a 3-round fight when the last one was 5 rounds in a main event, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of big, right? Because Volkov won the first round last time out. He went out there and he outvolumed him. And we saw, like, I don't know if it was Gane throwing the fight against John Jones, but if he wasn't throwing the fight, it's one of the worst ground games I've ever seen. So maybe Volkov can outvolume him in one round. Maybe Volkov can get a takedown in another round and win this fight.
If Volkov gets a takedown, I think he's subbing Gane. I mean, Gane's so bad on the ground. And Volkov's, I think, a brown belt or a black belt even.
Yeah, you know, I mean, like, Volkov is 4-3 to the submission as a pro, but, like, he is the better grappler here. And, you know, you don't want that guy on top of you. He's got good ground and pound, but obviously, like, Gane, the way he looked against John Jones shows, you know, I mean, like, either you threw the fight or that's how you grapple. And that's scary at minus 330. But the thing about Gane, what's, you know, in the big cage, when he gets to move his feet, when he gets to use that lateral movement, he's such a phenomenal athlete. He's so smooth in there. Great footwork, great defense, you know, very difficult to land shots on. He only absorbs 2.4 significant strikes per minute at distance. That is phenomenal. So he's just going to be hard to, but if you can get a takedown in one round, and if you can out-volume him in another round, maybe you can win a split decision here. So it would probably be dog or pass on the money line. And you just got to remember that Volkov's still only a year and a half older than Cyril Gane. Over a year away from the cage, by the way, for Cyril Gane as well. And for against Sergey Spivak, I heard somebody say that Spivak had said that he didn't even train at all for that fight.
Wait, are you being serious or joking?
I'm not joking. I'm not.
Because it looked like he didn't train.
He looked like he didn't train at all, right?
And
like, you know, especially after Gane coming off that horrible performance against John Jones, it was like, well, you know, I mean, if Spivak hits this guy down, he's going to look great. But, you know, Gane is a hard guy to take down. And I don't know if it was John Jones who caught a kick. I don't know. I don't remember how we got Gane down, but Volkov's got to try to get him down. That's what he's got to try to do here. Because if he can do that, he can win this fight.
I mean, I would love for him to do that. I don't think he will. He had 25 minutes to do it in his last fight, and he didn't even attempt one. Like, what's he doing?
Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know, but Volkov just beat Sergey Pavlovich.
He did. That guy's scary.
Yeah, I mean, he loses to Aspinall, and then he wins. He rattles off wins against Rozenstruik, Romanov, Tuivasa, and Pavlovich. And what do they do to thank him for that? They make him plus 275 against Cyril Gane.
Yeah, another an inflated line that shouldn't be this. I don't think I'd be shocked if Cyril Gane looked minus 330 here.
Yeah, especially in a 3-round fight, right? In a
Yeah.
5-round fight, I think Gane's really difficult to beat
Yeah,
because
I'd agree.
he's so precise and so hard to hit that over 5 rounds, that cardio, that athleticism gap, it gets bigger and bigger as his opponents get tired. But in a 3-round fight, he's going to be the smaller guy here against Volkov. So I think it's an interesting one. I think this is definitely another one that's probably dog or pass on the money line, but I think Volkov is one of the guys that you can bet on as an underdog this week. That's a really good fighter. You're getting a really good fighter at plus money.
Yeah, and like I said, even that plus 3.5, like win around. We'll see where they put that because he's a big dog, so we'll see.
Yeah. This is a high level heavyweight fight.
Yes, it is. All right, let's keep moving on. We have a couple more fights to break down. We have the co-main event, five rounds, right? 5 rounds.
Yes.
No non-title fight. Shavkat Rakhmonov going against Ian Garry. We got Shavkat, 30 years old, 6'1" with a 77-inch reach. Ian Garry, 27 years old, 6'3" with a 74-inch reach. Garry, 3 years younger, 2-inch height advantage, and it's going to be Rakhmonov with a 3-inch reach advantage. Shavkat, 5-0 in his last 5 fights. Submission win against Michael Prazeres. A knockout win against Carlston Harris. Submission wins against Magny, Neal, and Thompson. As far as Garry, 5-0 in his last 5 fights as well. Knockout win against Son Kanan. Knockout win against Daniel Rodriguez. Decision win against Neil Magny. Decision win against Jeff Neal. And then a decision win against Michael Page. We have 2 undefeated guys going after it. 1 guy is going to get their first loss. Weezy, what are your thoughts on this phenomenal co-main event?
It's like one of my favorite fights of the year. I mean, this is you never get to see this really, where it's like 2 undefeated prospects. They're not actually fighting for a title, but like whoever wins this is going to be next once Bilal gets healed up from the the bone infection. So I was thinking when I saw Shavkat, higher than minus 300, I was like, oh, I think I'm going to be getting to a bet on Ian Garry here, but 5 rounds bothers me. If this was a 3-round fight, I think I'd bet Ian Garry because I think he'd be able to deal with the pressure and outpoint Rakhmonov at distance. And I think that he could actually win minutes in the clinch against Rakhmonov and stop the takedowns. But Rakhmonov's pressure is exhausting, and that's what this guy does on the feet. He's always moving forward. He's making you move backwards. You're so worried about getting taken down because of the effective submission game and ground and pound of Rakhmonov that he can land big shots on the feet against you as well and win moments wherever the fight goes. So, I think Ian Garry would have to fight such a perfect fight here in order to come out the other end with a win because Shavkat is durable. Shavkat has phenomenal conditioning. Now, he's not the best minute winner. He's just not that. He's never won a fight by decision. He's only been into a 3rd round, I think, twice in his career, maybe. So this is not a guy that you really have to say where you're saying like, okay, if he doesn't get a finish, I'm confident that he's going to win the fight because his striking, it's okay. It's not phenomenal. Ian Garry's the better striker here. I'm sorry if anybody doesn't think that, but that's what I think. Ian Garry has got a positive 2.9 distance striking differential with 54% accuracy, a 4-to-1 knockdown ratio. But he's a little bit hittable at 54%. That bothers me because as he goes up the ladder here, that's going to make a big difference. And Ian Garry showed that he can grapple a little bit in the Michael Page fight. That was a very close fight. That one easily could have went either way. But Shavkat has got to find ways to set himself apart without having to get a takedown, necessarily, or spend a lot of time in the clinch. Because if he's going to have to win minutes at some point, you can't you're not just going to go and defend your title 8 times and be finishing everybody in title fights. And title fights go the distance a lot. So I'm interested to see, how Shavkat deals with the striking of Garry here, how he deals with the footwork and the lateral movement of Garry. I know we're going to see a lot of pressure from Shavkat. And because because he's got that power on the feet, and because the submission game is so opportunistic, and because the ground and pound can finish fights as well, I think that the pressure is going to yield opportunities for him to do exactly that. And I'm thinking a third or a fourth round finish for Shavkat Rakhmonov here with the pressure. And if he gets takedowns here, I think that ground and pound is going to either finish the fight or open up an opportunity for a submission.
Yeah, man. If Shavkat gets on top, he's so good here. So yeah, I mean, massive line on Shavkat minus 360. We got Ian Garry plus 295, and it looks like they have all the props out, at least on FanDuel. They have the over under set at 3.5. The over 3.5 is minus 130. The under 3.5 is plus 100. Is that line right?
Under 3.5 is what?
It says plus 100 on fight odds.
Oh, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I wouldn't think, but that's
because even on Bet Online, the under 2.5 is 46.5% or plus 115. So the under 3.5 should be moving. Well, it's actually moving 4%, which is in line with what the model says it should be moved. So, but that's just because it's a small sample size of only 73 fights that have been scheduled for 5 rounds. So I don't know, man. Like that under 3.5 at plus 100, not the worst look. But I think I'd rather bet Shavkat inside the distance if I could get a similar number.
Yeah, so that line's not real. So get some help, fight odds. Get some help, because that's not a real line. If it was, I'd probably be betting it. Just due to the fact that Shavkat's never even seen a fourth round. He's never even seen a decision.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, the over 2.5 is minus 145. The under 2.5 is plus 115. I think I saw Shavkat inside the distance at like minus 210, something like that.
The Dogfather just said minus 230. That's disgusting.
There we go. Now we're talking.
Yee.
Yep.
Rather just bet the money line. I mean,
yikes.
Oh.
Yikes.
God damn, man. These lines, they're getting so sharp, dude.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, they really force you to want to make you pick dogs, that are going to lose more times than they're going to win.
Yeah, and I do like Shavkat here, and I like him inside the distance, but I don't like minus 230. Like, you can't play. That's trash.
Agreed. Yeah, I think it's going to be more Shavkat in the second half of the fight, because Ian Garry's very good defensively on his feet in terms of his footwork and lateral movement. And he's always a guy, even in the Cage Warriors day, like people were just trying to take him down. So it's not like he's not used to fighting people that are going to come at him with this kind of a game plan.
Yeah, so we got people in the chats agreeing with you in terms of the 3, 4, 5. Let's see where those lines are at. So, oh gosh. Okay. So round 5 is 2,200. That's good.
Okay.
Round 4 is plus 1,400. I can get down with that. And then round 3 is plus 750. So those aren't terrible.
Let me get my de facto bet calculator out, Brady.
3,
so
4,
what
5.
do we got here? What was round 3?
Plus 750.
750. And then round 4 was what?
1,400.
1,400. And round 5 was what?
2,200.
2,200.
Oh, so and then yep, go ahead.
You could Dutch that at plus 340.
I know, but it'd be a shame if it was in round 2, though, is the only problem. But yeah.
Yeah. But 340, that's not bad, man. Because if it's money line, if it's inside the distance prop is minus 230. I mean, it's not like Shavkat's going out there and finishing guys in round 1 that are of Ian Garry's quality.
Yeah, he's typically finishing in like round 2. And then I know he finished Neil in round 3.
Neil was round 3, and that would be a similar type of opponent, in my opinion.
Agreed. And then Dogfather shouting out the 4-5 decision, which is solid.
That's cheeky.
Yeah.
I like that too, man. And then maybe you could, 350, and then you could like if you were to put 350 and 750, whether you could do the 4-5 decision, and then you could do the wait, what? 0. I got to put a 0 in here. That would be plus 194. So you could do like a 3-4-5 decision That would be plus 194. Because I'm picking Shavkat to win. I really thought pre-tape that I would be picking Garry to win for a big underdog play. But after the tape, man, Shavkat's pressure is incredible. And when you fight with that moment-winning type of skill set that he brings, you want to be pressuring your opponent. You don't want to let your opponent, control the range and win minutes. Shavkat doesn't let his opponents do that.
Do you think Shavkat wins by sub or knockout?
I would just bet. I think probably knockout, just because of we've seen Garry show some subpar striking defense at times, and that ground and pound, man.
Looks like they got Shavkat KO plus 210 and Shavkat sub plus 155.
Yeah.
It could be either or.
Makes sense, yeah.
Yep. All right. So we talked about the co-main event. It is now time for the main event. If you guys have not already, be sure to smash the like button. 362 of you hanging in here. Appreciate you guys. And we got some Bills football on. Looks like the Bills just scored. Got a snow game, which is pretty cool. But yeah, shout out to you guys for hanging out. And let's move on to this main event. We got Alexander Pantoja going against Kai Asakura. We got Pantoja, 34 years old, 5'5" with a 67-inch reach. Asakura, he's 31 years old, 5'8". Not sure in the reach there. Pantoja's 3 years older. He's going to have a 3-inch height disadvantage. Pantoja 5-0 in his last 5 fights. Submission win against Brandon Royval. Submission win against Alex Perez. Decision win against Brandon Moreno. Decision win against Brandon Royval. Decision win against Steve Erceg. As far as Asakura, he is 4-1 in his last 5 fights, making his debut, and he's making his debut in a title fight, which is very interesting there. And yeah, I went and watched a ton of tape on Kai Asakura. I think he's a phenomenal striker. He's very, very dangerous. But, Pantoja is probably going to be looking to get this fight down to the mat. And if he does, I think it could be bad news for Asakura. Pantoja is a pretty big favorite, which I wasn't expecting him to be this big of a favorite, just considering that there is a lot of hype on Asakura. But yeah, he's almost like minus 300, I think. Weezy, what are your thoughts on this main event?
Yeah, this is one of the fights that I've already written up. I've written up like 4 of these fights completely already, so I've got full picks for them. But I'll just read my summary on the write-up here, because there's a lot of things on the Asakura side, narrative-wise, that are really bothering me for this fight, and I summed them up pretty good in my summary, so I'll just read that. Kai Asakura is getting an immediate title shot against Pantoja, who is looking to successfully defend his title for the 3rd consecutive time on Saturday. There are several narrative-based issues on the Asakura side for this fight. First, Kai has never fought outside of the Far East before. Second, he's never been scheduled to fight for 5 rounds. Third, he's never fought in a cage before. Fourth, the rule set in the U.S. does not allow kicks or knees to a grounded opponent, and that is something we see Kai do a lot of on his regional scene tape. And last but not least, Kai has not fought at 125 pounds since the year 2017. And he lost that fight against a 9-9 opponent in Jae Hung Moon. So Alexandre is the more experienced fighter overall and in the UFC. He has the UFC strength of schedule advantage. He's definitely the more durable fighter with the 5-round experience, and he is the better minute and moment winner in the grappling exchanges. Kai Asakura is explosive. He will be the taller and longer fighter, and I rate him as being the more likely moment winner at distance striking range. Kai has a lot of narrative issues working against him here that I already mentioned, but he is a gifted moment winner with a knack for finishing fights. He has the ability to bank rounds of this fight if he can keep the fight standing and land the bigger shots while there. Both of these guys are very defensively irresponsible at distance striking range. So I see both guys having the chance to land bombs on each other on the feet that could potentially finish the fight. And if Pantoja gets takedowns and is able to advance to dominant positions, I see him as being very likely to finish the fight. I like fight doesn't go to decision as a potential parlay piece for this fight. Kai's first fight in the U.S., his first cut to 125 pounds in 7 years, first fight in a cage that's scheduled for 5 rounds under a new rule set that doesn't allow knees or kicks to a grounded opponent, are all important factors working against Asakura here. Not to mention the fact that Pantoja has massive grappling and strength of schedule advantages. Pantoja's durability makes it even less likely that Asakura is able to win this fight, because I don't really see him being a better minute winner in this matchup. So if you're a moment winner and now you're counting on winning moments against a guy like Alexander Pantoja, who's incredibly durable, it puts you in a very, very tricky situation. So this is Pantoja's fight to lose. But being a 34-year-old flyweight, his time is coming soon. And Kai is younger, he's hungrier, he's more powerful and explosive. And the UFC would love to give Asian viewers more reasons to tune into the product by having the first ever Japanese champion. Kai could land a step-in knee that finishes this fight, but I think the far more likely scenario is that Pantoja gets an early takedown, lands a ton of ground and pound, advances to a dominant position, and finishes the fight with a submission in the first or second round. There are too many factors working against Asakura here to bet him as an underdog, especially since he's very finish dependent against one of the most durable flyweights in the UFC, along with Brandon Moreno. So I'm going to pick Alexander Pantoja to be and still and win this fight by second round submission.
Yep, I think the biggest point you brought up was durability. I think durability is going to be key here. Pantoja never finished. I mean, this guy's head's made out of like a brick. I mean, this guy, we've seen him take so many shots. Is Asakura the first one to knock him out? Maybe, but gotta rely on his durability there, and then also the grappling as well. Durability and grappling are the two big things for me. So yeah, Pantoja, I like it. Minus 270. It is wide, but what I do like a little bit more is the inside the distance, which is plus 130-ish, I think.
Where do you got an inside the distance line? Are these opening on Bet Online, or is it something?
No.
That's on FanDuel.
FanDuel, yeah. Yeah, I don't mind that.
Yeah, for me, it's for me, the reason I like Pantoja so much this week is it is that durability, dude. In the Urseg fight, he ate a left hook that would have knocked out anybody else in the division not named Brandon Moreno. I couldn't believe. I went back and I watched it 3 times after he ate it. I was like, dude, it didn't even look like he saw it. You know, it's the ones that you don't see. They will knock you out clean. They don't need to be that hard. It was a short left hook. It was perfectly placed, ton of power on it. Didn't even look like Pantoja saw it. Ate it like a chimichanga and kept going forward. I couldn't believe it, man.
Yeah, his chin, his durability is next level. So that's kind of why I like him here. All right. So yeah, we did it, Weezy. We went through all 14 fights. Last thing we got to do is shout out to our guy Avery. We got to come together and give us a Stat Diggers parlay. So there's a lot of parlay pieces I feel good about like winning, but at the same time we have Chase Hooper is minus 1,000.
Yeah,
which that's not going to add anything to a parlay. Kennedy Nzechukwu is minus 600. We have Brian Battle minus 234. I don't like that. I hate Evloev at minus 240. Reyes minus 330. I don't love it, but I also do like him to win. Mitchell at minus 700. I really, really, really like him to win, but that adds nothing to a parlay. Gane minus 340. Absolutely not. Shavkat minus 360. Maybe. Pantoja minus 270. Maybe. Not a ton to work with. Unless we do like a 3-legger. I don't know. What do you think?
So I like Pantoja. But it's not a great line, but
and I was gonna pick him too, so that's awkward.
Okay, yeah. So okay, here's a couple other things though, right? Over 2.5 rounds for Garry versus Rakhmonov. I don't mind that. Minus 145. So if we were to do Pantoja and minus 145 for the over 2.5 rounds for Garry versus Rakhmonov, that would get us plus 132. I also like Cody Durden to win at plus money, but that's risky, you know?
Yeah, that is risky, putting a dog in there. Yeah, I don't know, man. I guess we could. Did they have a total out for the Rakhmonov fight?
Yeah, it's the over 2.5 on Bet Online is minus 145, and you can parlay totals on Bet Online. So That would be plus 132.
Yeah, I don't know what else we could do, man. Because Mitchell's minus 700. I
know.
love Mitchell to win, but he's minus 700. Yeah.
Yeah, and even like, and they won't even let you parlay. Oh wait, did they? No, they won't even let you parlay Bryce Mitchell. Isn't that hilarious? They won't even let you, dude. You're like minus 700. We're not giving you that, So,
jeez.
Yeah, like for instance, there are some legs that I think would be really good. Like, how about a fight doesn't go to decision for Landwehr versus Choi?
I'd love that. Yeah, I'd love that.
That would be a great parlay piece for this week to go along with Pantoja, because I think Pantoja is my favorite parlay piece of the week this week.
Yeah, at the line, I'd say. Yeah, either him. Yeah, I'd agree.
And then, even like Brian Battle, Randy Brown, the over 1.5 is minus 200. That's not bad.
Yeah, I like that.
I think that one probably goes over 7.5 minutes. Let's see what my model says about that one, because that one's going to be a little bit further down here.
That's solid.
That could be a good one as well. My model at minus 200 doesn't hate it. 12 of 18 fights for Brown have went over, 4 of 8 for Battle, but I think Battle is live for a finish. So, yeah, do you want to just go with the over 2.5 here? I mean, because like Pantoja is the leg that I wanted. Is there any other leg that you feel like would be a good parlay leg here besides Pantoja?
No. What is the minus 200? The Brown Battle over 1.5 parlayed with the Pantoja? Is that plus money at least?
It is plus 106.
I don't hate it.
You'd rather do that than the over 2.5 in a Shavkat fight.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, I get it, man. I get it.
He hasn't been over 2.5 much, but yeah.
Yeah, like I think we could get a little bit risky, like if we wanted to do Pantoja and Durden.
Or why not? Why can't we do a Pantoja inside the distance and parlay that with something chalky?
Yeah.
Because he's going to finish Asakura. Let's
How about this? Stat Diggers parlay.
Yes.
Pantoja inside the distance.
Yes.
Landwehr Choi fight doesn't go to decision.
I like that. Let's do that.
Let's do that one. Avery Marino is our sponsor of this show, and he's going to get a winner this week. And we don't know what it is yet. We don't know what it is, but the Stat Diggers parlay, Pantoja ITD,
yes,
along with fight doesn't go to decision. We're going to get some violence with the old gloves back. So these are 2 violence bets on what should be a pretty violent card. I think that's the way to go.
I like that a lot, and I'll be looking to probably straight bet both of those as well in some type of way. So I like it.
Yep. Let's go.
We did it. It was tough, man. I mean, there's so many juice lines. It's like hard to find something you like. Like I like Bryce Mitchell, but minus 700. I like Chase Hooper, minus 1,000. I like Kennedy, minus 600. Like what's going on? The juice.
And you wouldn't even be able to parlay these on most sites. Like we could give you a Stat Diggers parlay of Kennedy and Nzechukwu, Chase Hooper, and Bryce Mitchell and Pantoja, and that would probably hit, but it's just in such poor form for professional gamblers to be putting together 4-leg parlays that come out to plus 120.
Oh, yeah. So I like what we did there. The Pantoja inside the distance and the Choi Landwehr fight doesn't go. So there you have it. Looking for some violence. We have the old gloves back for the pay-per-view. Thank God. We're going to get some violence here. UFC 310. Weezy, any final thoughts on the card? And then also let people know your plans for this week for some content.
Yeah, so for this week, as far as final thoughts on the card, it's going to be this is going to be a prop card mostly for me, just because a lot of these lines are so wide. Maybe we'll be able to find some stuff on the props that I like this week. And as far as content goes, the Dub Club and the Patreon people will be seeing me go live on Wednesday for Balls Deep Breakdown, Wednesday afternoon and Wednesday evening for Probability. Going to be putting out the rest of my track bets probably after I do probability this week. Wait and see where these props open up tomorrow, see what kind of opportunities open up. But yeah, I'm going to try to finish up some more write-ups tonight and get all the content out to the people on the Patreon and Dub Club by like Tuesday night, Wednesday.
Sounds good. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm liking this card. Some spots sticking out. I think we're gonna get some violence. So yeah, looking forward to that. Before we get out of here, if you guys could, like, on your way out, subscribe to the channel as well. I'll be getting out my full card breakdown and prediction video tomorrow or Tuesday at the latest. There's a couple more fights I'm going to look into a little bit more. And then we have best bet coming up, and it will be the last best bet of the year because I will be going to Tampa Bay for the fights for UFC Tampa Bay. Joaquin Buckley, Colby Covington. Already bought the tickets, and I had to make at least one card this year. I looked at the prices, and they were reasonable. They weren't going to completely F me. I think it's like $100 a ticket. So yeah, last best bet of the year. Final thoughts Friday, and best of luck, guys, for UFC 310. And we'll talk to you soon. See you later.